Rost is a worthless healer with zero skills who got kicked from his own adventure party, but he ends up making his ex-teammates regret it after revealing that he's insanely OP as a DPS. This story begins at a bustling adventurers guild, a lively place where adventurers from all walks of life gather. A blue-haired girl boldly approaches Rost, asking him to form an adventuring party with her. Hearing this unexpected invitation directed at the biggest loser of all time, every single one of the adventurers present is left so shocked that one guy actually drops an axe on his own foot in disbelief. Even Rost himself cannot fathom why someone would want to team up with a loser like him, even though he was the one who originally put up a recruitment sign in the first place. The girl, who introduces herself as Narusina, claims to be a strong martial artist and once again requests Rost to let her join his adventuring team. But before he can muster a response, the guild receptionist, Amherst, rushes in with a sense of urgency and takes Narusina aside. She hurriedly tells her all about how incompetent Rost is and how he can only use beginner-level healing spells, casting doubt on Narusina's decision. According to Amherst, Rost is an orphan who grew up in the world of adventurers, but still can't use any high-level healing spells, which, in the eyes of everyone around, makes him the ultimate loser. Even so, he was given an opportunity to join a party called the Lightning Sword. However, he made such a big fat L during his brief time with them that he got kicked straight out of the team just days later. Now, his reputation as a failure is well known, and so no one wants him to join their parties. In addition to being super mid, Rost is also broke AF, which is precisely why Amherst strictly advises Narusina to reconsider her decision. Narusina, however, is unfazed by the warnings. She tells Amherst not to worry, casually showing off how much money she has on hand. Amherst quickly warns her against flaunting her wealth in public, emphasizing that there are way too many bad people around who might target her vulnerable position. Despite this advice, Narusina doesn't seem too worried about her well-being. Besides, she claims that it has been a long time since she has wanted to team up with Rost. With a dismissive wave, she tells the nosy receptionist to put her nose back in her own wagon and returns to Rost to continue their earlier conversation. Both sides eventually agree to form an adventuring party together, and so the receptionist reluctantly hands them an application form. While Rost is filling out the form, Narusina admires his attentiveness and determination, hinting that she might have a crush on him. When Rost suddenly looks up at her, she becomes startled, her reaction making it abundantly clear just how much she likes him. After officially becoming a new adventuring team, Rost and Narusina shake hands, solidifying their new friendship in a heartfelt moment. They walk through their city, Marmot, when Rost casually mentions that this place is built near a labyrinth that hasn't been fully explored yet. This intriguing fact is precisely why many adventurers gather here in hopes of uncovering its mysteries. Rost comes up with the brilliant idea to explore that very labyrinth with Narusina, even though just minutes ago, the receptionist had given him a clear warning not to put the girl in any danger until she becomes a pro. Around Marmot, there are orcs living in the east side mountains and north side forests. There are also deadly snakes residing in the wetlands to the south, and only some weak goblins in the grasslands of the west, making it the perfect place for amateur adventurers to hone their skills and gain experience. However, Rost doesn't think Narusina will show any improvement soon if they go to the grasslands, and that is why he insists on going directly to the labyrinth, where the real challenges lie. They make their way to the entrance, and Narusina volunteers to take the lead, reminding Rost that she is the martial artist, the DPS of the party, whereas he is the support, a mere healer. With confidence oozing from her face, she steps inside the labyrinth, and Rost follows her closely. He wonders if she has any experience fighting, but she soon proves her worth as she defeats a pack of goblins, fisting them to their deaths with surprising skill. Rost collects a magic stone from the loot drop, which can be sold to the guild for some much-needed money. Narusina curiously asks Rost why the guild buys these magic stones, and in reply, Rost explains to her that magic stones contain magical energy, which the guild harvests for various purposes, including enhancing their own abilities and crafting powerful items. The duo collects several of these green magic stones, but they aren't worth much because they are dropped from the weakest of the weak monsters. So, Rost encourages Naracina to fight stronger monsters to increase her skill level, and they both decide to head to the next floor of the labyrinth in search of greater challenges. The carefree girl almost steps on a hidden trap, but Rost stops her just in time, saving her from being pierced by dozens of sharp spikes. Rost takes this opportunity to teach her how to identify traps, telling her to always look out for bricks that have a different shade of color. Naracina is amazed to see how knowledgeable Rost is and asks him if he studies a lot, since this kind of knowledge is typically only relevant for adventurers who belong to the thief class. Rost explains that because he has been working for a long time in various capacities, he has ended up developing all sorts of skills, some of which may seem unconventional for a healer. His diverse experiences allow him to be more resourceful than others might expect, and this surprises Naracina even more. Seeing the giant orc monster, Rost and Naracina take cover while the monster looks for them. Rost recognizes this as a half-orc, which happens to be a mid-level monster. He decides to attack the pathetic fatty, and Naracina offers to join him in this. Seeing how passionate she seems, he agrees to take down the monster. She jumps out of their hiding spot, leaving Rost behind as she gets set to attack. She springs at it and is able to dodge its large whip before kicking it. However, the hard body of monsters makes her feel like she has just kicked a rock. She tries to take advantage of the monster's slow nature. In that moment, the monster smacks her away and is about to have her for dinner when Rost steps in. He cuts the hand of the smelly beast and stabs it in the heart. With the monster gone, Naracina is thrilled at how much Rost's close combat techniques have improved. She seeks to know if he is the healer, but he avoids the question. Just then, she continues to rant on about how much he has improved in close combat. Amidst this, he is concerned about the injury she sustained on her arm while fighting the monster. Immediately, he stretches out his hands to heal her. Just then, a bright light comes out of his hands and heals her wounds while she watches in amazement. After that, the two are amazed by how big the orc's magic stone is. Naracina believes this is more worthwhile than a goblin's stone, and Rost suggests that they head back to town since they have gotten something as valuable as this. However, Naracina assures him that she is pumped and ready to take down more monsters. Due to this, the two decide to hunt down some more. Later that day, when the two had taken down more orcs and gotten the monster stones, they head to the Adventurers Guild to trade in the stones. Getting there, Athirst is worried that Rost allowed Naracina to come with him to the labyrinth since it was risky. However, he informs her that it was Naracina who insisted on coming with him, which the latter agreed to. Later on, they show her the stones they had retrieved, and she is thrilled to see so many orc stones. Since they were more valuable than any magic stones, she asks if they would be trading it in, and they confirm this. Happily, she goes ahead to seal the trade. Her joy surprises Rost, not until he is informed by Naracina that sealing a trade like this gets Anhurst a salary increase. When Anhurst hands them the payment for the stones, Rost is shocked to his bones. He never believed they were worth so much. This causes him to realize just how much he was cheated previously. Apparently, his old party had cheated him badly. Realizing this, Naracina believes they should file a dispute. She asks Anhurst about the possibility of this, and Anhurst claims they would need to pay a fee for it. Since he didn't want to make a big deal out of this, Rost chooses to be the bigger person and let things go. When he says that, the two girls decide to let things be. However, Anhurst urges him to give Naracina exactly half of the proceeds, and he assures her that he will. With the deal done, the two head out, leaving Anhurst behind. While they leave, Anhurst's boss, Mr. Handsome, stares at Rost. Meanwhile, Anhurst spends her time counting the extra cash she has made and is so happy doing it. While she does so, Mr. Handsome approaches her to ask if Rost has decided to join a new party, but she reveals that Rost is too incompetent to be accepted by any party. However, she diverts his interest to Naracina, who she thinks is very special. That night, Rost and Naracina arrive at Ms. Mary's Inn to get a room. When they enter the restaurant area, they are met by her daughter, who seems to like Rost a lot. However, when she sees Narasina, she faces her in disgust and asks if she is his pathetic new party member. He is surprised to find out that the news has spread all over town. In response, she lets him know that everyone in the town has found out about incompetent he is, which has made him a hard choice for any party member. At that moment, he demands for a room for the night, and the girl directs him to meet her mother. When Ms. Mary sees Rost and Narasina, she immediately assumes that the two are a couple and are here for some workout sessions. Just then, she asks if they would be needing just one room, and Rost wastes no time in declining this offer, claiming that they would be needing different rooms. I guess his rod isn't in a working state. On the other hand, Narasina wishes they would get a new room. Even though she calls Rost her big brother, she doesn't mind sharing the same room with him if it means she gets to feel his big brother below. Meanwhile, before the two head to their rooms, Miss Mary offers to give them some food. After eating, the two head to their rooms and they tell each other goodnight. Getting into her room, Narasina is still sad that Rost didn't agree to share the room with her. She remembers the first time they met. At the time, she was still a little girl and had bruises all around her body. Seeing her in this state, Rost healed her. His kind gesture towards her caused her to make the decision to become an adventurer in future. At the time, she was so confident that she would team up with him upon becoming an adventurer and protect him if the need arises. Surprisingly, she trained hard ever since and saw the perfect opportunity to be reunited with him after hearing that he had been kicked out of his old party. This made her confident in forming a new party with him. Thankfully, she has achieved her lifelong dream. However, this still wasn't enough. She is sad at the fact that Rost cannot recognize her from before, although she gives him the benefit of doubt since she had become taller and now had a different hard color from before, which would make it harder for anyone who knew her years back to recognize her now. Amidst this, she is thrilled to know that he has gotten even stronger than he was. The strength he showed earlier against the half-orc monster causes her to believe that maybe Rost would have no need for her protection. These thoughts are, however, halted by her realization that she must protect him no matter what. Having decided on this, she gets set to sleep and takes off her adventurer's clothing, putting on a more feminine attire. At that moment, she wonders why the people in the town believe that Rost is incompetent. This is especially since she knew just how powerful he was. Dolan was once the most feared dragon in the world, but after being betrayed by his allies, he is reincarnated as a newborn baby and must learn what it means to be human. The story begins with the human army successfully binding the mightiest dragon of this fantasy world in chains. Their so-called hero mercilessly drives his blade through the dragon's heart. The dragon doesn't understand why the humans are trying to subdue him after all. He remembers being their ally. He refrains from attacking, still considering them friends, and only asks to be spared from such cruel treatment. The lonely dragon, having existed for so long, no longer desires to fight these insignificant creatures. He offers little resistance and accepts his fate. As he crumbles away, he breaks his shackles and looks up at the sky, begging the gods for eternal peace for his soul. However, the gods seem to have other plans. Instead of sending Dolan to the underworld, they place his soul in the cycle of life and death, reincarnating him as a newborn human baby. When Dolan first opens his eyes, he finds himself gazing at an ordinary man and woman. The woman, excited to see her baby's eyes open, names him Dolan. She introduces herself as his mother and the man beside her as his father. She also mentions that Dolan has an older brother. Judging by their joyful faces, Dolan assumes he's been reborn into a happy family. As time passes, Dolan grows into a tall young swordsman who enjoys the simple pleasures of his village life. One day, as he's admiring the sunset, a girl named Eri runs up to him. Dolan glances at her and then at the calm village behind her, feeling a deep sense of peace and contentment. Eri notices his subtle smile and asks if something's bothering him. He assures her everything's fine, and together they head back to the village. I think Dolan is just silently being thankful to the gods for gifting him with this peaceful life instead of giving him the endless sleep he once sought. He currently lives in a small village named Varen, which is situated on the north border of the continental kingdom of Arcrest. After his death as a dragon, he was born here as a human, and has been spending his days here ever since. The only industry here is agriculture, so Dolan too is an agriculturist, a farmer. Every day, he wakes up by the ray of sunlight coming through the blinds and then goes out into the fields to work on his farm. This is the only way to earn his daily bread, and he doesn't complain because he gets plenty of water and food to eat this way. After having lunch alone with some bread and soup, Dolan heads out again in the village. Just like every other anime, if you are 15 years old, you are considered an adult. But are you, though? But anyway, Dolan turned 15 a year ago, so he left his home to live on his own as an adult, although he stays in the same village. He goes to the nearby forest with his older brother and uses his trusty fishing rod to catch some fish. Dolan's brother reminds him that he will have to go investigate the swamp near their village tomorrow. Dolan explains why there is even a need to investigate the swamp, telling us that since last month, the lizards from that swamp have disappeared, and that might change the entire ecosystem around it. Dolan's brother doesn't want Dolan to go to such a dangerous place alone, as it was supposed to be Garrison's job originally. Dolan doesn't want to step back from his responsibilities, and the only reason he is helping the elders is because the captain and the others are busy guarding the village. Dolan's brother offers to go with him as he cares for his brother's safety. But Dolan is a grown man at the age of 16 and doesn't want to cause his older brother any trouble. He promises his brother that he will be just fine, telling him not to worry as he will be only going to the swamp to check out the place and nothing else. He manages to catch loads of big fish and brings back a whole bucket of them. On his way back, he meets up with his two friends, Malida and Albert, who become amazed to see the sheer numbers of fish he has caught all by himself. Malida doesn't get why Dolan went out fishing instead of preparing for the investigation. In reply, Dolan claims that he has been preparing little by little for the past several days and assures her that he will be fine. He also thanks her for helping him by persuading the village chief and the other elders into letting him take this job. Malida thanks Dolan back, saying that he is the one who has always been helping her with her and Albert's training. Speaking of which, Dolan asks both Malida and Albert if they are heading out soon. Malida replies in the affirmative, informing Dolan that they have a meeting about the next training session for the little ones soon and will have to leave the village for it. But Albert tells Dolan to not worry about it and advises him to prioritize his investigation. Dolan takes his leave from his friends and heads back home. He guts a fish and heavily seasons it with salt. While preparing the fish, he tells us about the monsters residing around this village. They are called the bandits, and because this is a far side village, there aren't enough soldiers around to give protection to the villagers. So, the villagers are more or less expected to help each other in protecting themselves. Dolan prepares all of the fish he captured and lets them dry out in the sun. The young girl from earlier, Eri, comes at his front door, reminding him that today is Dolan's magic practice day. Dolan asks Eri if she came here only to get him, and she gives the excuse that she was just passing by. Anyway, Dolan heads outside and goes to his grandma's house to train. In front of his grandma and Eri, he demonstrates how magic exists in this world. He recites a basic magic spell by saying the phrase, "Laws of power, hear my voice, become an arrow and pierce my foe." Right after, he shouts energy bolt, which literally releases an energy bolt that blasts the dummy into bits. Dolan's grandma Magaru is impressed at Dolan's offensive magic, as she has always been, and commends the boy for understanding the fundamentals well. Dolan gives all the credit to the old lady, telling her that he is only so good thanks to her teachings. Now that his offensive magic training has come to an end, Lady Magaru decides to make him practice magical medicines, which he is apparently worst at. After spending a long time studying and practicing magical medicines, Dolan meets an oddly attractive woman in the evening. The village chief introduces the woman as Christina, a young noble lady who will be staying at their village for the next couple of days. Dolan shakes hands with Christina and immediately realizes that she is someone very strong and skilled. Dolan goes to his parents' house to have dinner with them, and there it is revealed that he has a younger brother named Marco. Dolan's dad suggests Dolan get a wife since he has been pretty lonely lately. Dolan expresses his desire to be single a little longer, and his dad respects it, telling him that he is free to make his own decisions as he is an adult now. Marco mentions the swamp investigation, which worries Papa and Mama Dolan, and Dolan assures all of them that everything will be fine and he will return safely with a great story to tell them. The next morning, the captain of the village offers to accompany Dolan, but Malita stops him from doing so because he has other duties to fulfill. The nun of the village, Letitia, gives Dolan a simple goddess's blessing. His grandma Magaru comes there, informing him that he might end up running into trouble, as that is what her fortune-telling showed her. So, she tells him to be careful out there. Just before Dolan is about to leave, Ari gives him a lunchbox, telling him to eat it on the road. He thanks everyone for being so wholesome, and then leaves for the journey. He walks the entire way, stopping several times to drink and rest. He explains to us why the disappearance of the lizards affects his village. Apparently, the lizards in the swamp occasionally interacted with the village, but when they disappeared, it just felt odd to Dolan. So, the lizard's disappearance actually affected Dolan and not the village, and that is the reason why he himself volunteered to investigate what happened. He reaches the swamp, not knowing what he might discover there, and places his hand on the ground, instantly figuring out why the lizards are no longer living here. According to his analysis, the Earth's elemental power has gotten too strong, and the water's elemental power has weakened, and that is why the lizards have moved away. Dolan remembers the fortune-telling of Lady Magaru, and knowing that her foretelling is almost never wrong, he suspects that there's something that has deliberately caused the change of the elemental power levels. At that moment, he senses a strong presence nearby and brings out his sword to fight it. Under the current conditions, only strong monsters can reside here. So Dolan can only imagine how strong this unseen monster is. The monster is a lamia, a species that looks half human, half snake. The lamia seems to not have any battle experience at all, so she just moves her hands around, making her look like a total clown, before Dolan can misunderstand and attack her. She makes it clear to him that she doesn't want to fight him. At that moment, a giant earth elemental monster emerges behind them and attacks the lamia. Dolan reacts quickly and cuts the hand of the earth elemental. He hides behind a giant mushroom with the lamia and tells her that the only reason the elemental has emerged is the same reason the lizards also left this place: the change in the elemental power levels. In any case, Dolan will have to deal with the monster. But first he introduces himself to the lamia, learning that her name is Selena. Selena has the ability to use magic, so Dolan suggests she fight the elemental alongside him. She hesitates to work together with a human she has just met, but Dolan's aura is just too great for him to refuse. So, she ends up joining him in his fight and helps him subdue the elemental. Dolan uses his sword to deflect any attacks coming towards Selena, and Selena casts a giant magic spell, summoning a gigantic snake that holds down the elemental. This buys Dolan enough time to close the gap between him and the elemental. With swift speed, he leaps towards the elemental and imbues his sword with draconic magic, cutting the monster down perfectly. The sand reforms back with earth, and some gets splashed at Selena, giving the viewers quite the fan service. Moving along, Dolan becomes properly acquainted with Selena, this time and camps nearby with her at night. Selena is happy to see that there is a human who isn't afraid of her appearance. Dolan, being Earth's most feared dragon, once met much more stranger creatures, and that explains why he isn't scared of anything at all. Anyway, Selena explains that the only reason she came to the swamp was to find a husband for herself, as she became an adult after turning 17. Speaking of which, lamias need strong men as their husbands because the regular ones die from their poison. She keeps giving subtle hints to Dolan that they should get married and have babies, but Dolan shows no interest at all, being the Chad he is. He proceeds to make the stew following his mom's recipe and serves it to Selena, who is overwhelmed by the flavor of this delicacy. Seeing Dolan praise his mom, Selena asks him if he loves his family a lot. Dolan agrees and pities the lonely dragon he once was. The next morning, he takes his leave, wishing Selena the best of luck on finding a partner. He He gives her some of his life energy as a parting gift. But it turns out to be too strong for her, as his life energy is still of a dragon. As the sun rises, he once again admires its beauty for a second and parts his ways with Selena, telling her to visit his home anytime. This was the end of the first part of this series. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give us a like and subscribe to our channel. It's free, and you can always change your mind. Thanks for watching. Bye.